Okay, I want to talk to you about managing different versions of programming languages in your development environment. Um, as microservices have become more popular and like even as a application lives over time, you're going to have to change the version that it's running on. And running different versions of Python, Node.js together is kind of a burdensome task if you don't have a tool to manage that. So in Python, I've used PyEnv, and Node.js, I've used NVM, and the Ruby world, there's RVM. There's a lot of different tools that can do this, but their CLI and their user experience is completely different. And so it's really burdensome to remember all the different flags for every single different environment that you want to be working in. And so I found this general purpose language or general purpose version manager called asdf, and it allows you to work with basically any programming language and even some other tools like databases that you can run many different versions of it, and it can swap your environment around and utilize them. So one of the most important parts of how this works is it doesn't include everything that it can work with out of the box. It has a plugin system. So if you look at this, you can see it has a wide range of plugins, and they're maintained by community members all over the place. You can see all of these are in different Git repositories. And so this allows it to be really flexible and really powerful at the same time. And so it's pretty easy to start working with it because once you find the plugin that you want, you just add it. So plugin is named Node.js, so you just run. And what this is doing is adding the functionality for asdf to work with Node.js. It is not installing Node.js. So if you check here, I still do not have a Node version currently, but now asdf knows how to work with Node.js. And so one of the things we can do is list all the versions that Node.js has now. And so if, for example, if we wanted LTS, we could just say but then we can also define specific versions that we want as well. So for example, with my systems, a lot of the times I'm utilizing Node 12 still. We haven't upgraded all the way up. So I might want to pull in Node 12 just so that my applications can be utilizing it. So after you've installed these plugins, you can run asdf list and you can kind of see which versions you have running. So I have Node 12, I have Poetry, Python, Yarn. And currently, the default that is selected is Node 16. And so if I run asdf current, you can see currently Node 16 is inside my tool versions. So I've defined that on my local system that if there's not a version defined in a specific project, use 16. But I don't have that same defined for any others. And so there's three ways that you can change versions. So like whoops. So if we look here, I have Node 12 and Node 16. I'm defaulting to 16, but if I wanted to use Node 12, I could just create a shell for it. And now my default version is Node 12. The way this is working is it's just setting an environment variable. So it checks the .tool versions file first, locally within the current working directory. Then it moves out to your global home directory, and the highest priority is the environment variable. And so if you don't want to be using that anymore, you can just unset that environment variable. You're good to go. Then if you want to make it global, that's when we say global, that's inside this tool versions file inside your home directory. You can just say but now I've got Python in there. If I run asdf current, now Python is defaulted to 3910. But you can also set it locally. So if I say like project 1, and I say, so now if I'm here, I'm using my global setting 16.4, but if I change directory into project 1, now it's automatically using 12.22. So this provides you the ability to define what your project's environment should look like, and then anyone who's working on that project is going to be using the same versions. And so this is a great way to collaborate and work with other developers. And so what I do in my projects is I commit the tool versions file directly into the repository. So anyone who checks it out, if they try to run it, it's going to tell them like, hey, you're not running the version that I expect. This does expect that they are using ASDF as well for managing their projects, but you can set like an NVM RC or a node version file as well. That's legacy in terms of ASDF because it prefers defining all of the versions of the tools that you want in one file rather than having like a node version, a Python version, individual files, because it's defining your package manager, your front-end language, your back-end language, and like I said earlier, you can also manage your databases through it. So it's a pretty great environment for managing different tooling across your development environment without actually having to install them natively in a way that would squash like any other languages that have come with your operating system. For example, like with um, OS X, you can have Python by default, but you don't really want to use that system Python. You really want to use the versions that are for your project. So hopefully that sounds interesting to you, and hopefully you want to check it out.